Sheriff. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning. Sunshine came up, blinded me as I came around the corner.
It's a good pain. It's a good, ooh, ow, but I like it.
You want to soak in that vitamin D in January.
We don't get much of it.
No.
So take it while you can.
Have lately, which has been different. Take that for sure.
I know you guys don't like the Q word. It has been a fairly uneventful winter with ice issues, though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Don't want to jinx you, but
You know, I think we had a pretty good start off with the colder temps, obviously, and then the snow that we did get did kind of blow off. I think it was the right kind of snow, so it kind of kept the thermal insulating barrier down, and that was able to make us continue to make ice. Now we just got to get through.
Don't want to say the Q word.
No.
Well,
We still have our fair share of 911 calls, though, coming from the lakes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for whatever reason, when people are fishing, I don't know what it is, but
Are you talking butt-dialed ones or real ones?
yeah, it's primarily butt-dialed ones.
Isn't that crazy? With all this technology and smart, and you can still butt dial a 911 call.
Well, a lot of them have just a shortcut, one digit you have to long press or
All right.
something.
Or
Yeah.
push two buttons on the side at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, or tap it twice or something like that.
So careful there. Well, there's a lot of unrest. And I just thought I even made a post on Facebook last night. We should just try and get some love and
Good luck with that.
Get along.
understand other people's, but we don't have to get angry and mad.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we have to take a step back, take a breath, and be human beings first and foremost here.
Anger's never fixed anything that's broke.
Never. Nope.
So if we just try it, I know that people are like, oh, probably rolling their eyes. Not today, I'm not. But keyboard warriors out there and stuff, just try
It's
it.
easy to hide behind your monitor and a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And we see a fair share of that, obviously, when, with social media. We actually investigate threats sometimes over social media. So, I mean, it's what you would commonly not say to another human being face to face has gotten substantially easier since, what was it, 2006 or 7? I don't know whenever Facebook came out. But
It was, 2010, 2011, but MySpace was before that,
yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah. That's still a thing.
Didn't it close?
It should have. What sorts of de-escalation training do your officers have?
So we have, it's funny you mentioned that. It seems like every year we get to the end of the year and we've got to make sure that we're caught up to date, of course. And with how busy our schedules are and whatnot, some of that training kind of tends to get all stuck in one lumped area, and it's usually in the last quarter of the year.
Sure.
And I just personally just got done doing some of my stuff, and we do everything from several hours of mental health training, several hours of conflict resolution training, autism spectrum training. I mean, the state and the post board have designed Minnesota peace officers training around the current needs of what we're facing on a regular basis. Mental health training when I first started my career was almost non-existent,
Right.
and you just kind of had to wing it. But it's gotten significantly better for sure.
There's an attention, a focus to it. Well, I have to.
Yes, yep, and unfortunately, as a result of tragedies that have happened in our country as it pertains to, law enforcement officers coming in and encountering mental health, maybe seeing it as maybe impairment through drugs and alcohol. Some of those mental illnesses are a direct result of drugs and alcohol use over a long period of time. But being able to do our best to communicate, refocus someone, have a better encounter than what we would have other than by using, just sheer brute force when it comes to having to make contact with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
Saw this in a movie, so who knows if it was even remotely accurate or not. Do certain entities in law enforcement have different training for how and when you pull that gun out of that holster? In this particular show, it was, federal Secret Service officer pulls gun with safety off.
Sure.
Where your local police department doesn't. Is that a thing?
So we as, the agency, an arm of the government, if you will,
Sure,
would essentially be telling our staff, you only get to do something in these circumstances. You and I might feel threatened
differently,
right? And so if a law enforcement officer feels that his life is in danger, or the life of another that he's sworn to protect is in danger, that might be different. Now, there are, more often than not, there are cues, right? Someone has a weapon. Someone was reported to have had a weapon. Those are fairly common, and a weapon could be a baseball bat.
sure.
If I get hit with a baseball bat, I could be killed. Some people may not see that as a dangerous weapon. Some people holding a brick. I have a grandfather whose brother died by being hit in the head with a rock. I mean, you throw rocks at people, that could be deemed deadly force. So it all boils down to the individual whose life is, potentially being threatened. There's no hard and fast rule. We don't encourage guys to pull firearms for no reason, obviously. I mean, that's just, you're asking for issues there. But, when you have the perception of, and there's also, we saw you guys conduct an operation where you were doing a search warrant on, say it's a person that is wanted for fraud. Is that a violent crime? Do we have our guns out when we go into to a residence like that? Well, does the person have a history of violence? Have they made statements that they're not going to be taken alive? Those kinds of things all play into that effect. We're going to go execute a search warrant on a armed robbery suspect. That's probably a guarantee, just because that individual, if there's probable cause to enter a home and take custody of somebody, that probable cause was investigated, presented to a judge, and the judge says, yes, you can go get this individual. So there's more than enough, evidence there to suggest that we should be careful when we do enter the home.
You know what? I think people don't know that you're sworn to protect us.
Correct.
Right? And we leave it at that. But what is that? I mean, I'm sure you can summarize. But what is that? What is the extent? What don't people understand? Like, some might just say, oh, he's this, or could it go as far as to take a bullet?
Well, certainly, that's a, that comes down to a very varying of individual, ability, right? In the sense that a law enforcement officer takes an oath to swear and uphold the laws of the state and the laws of the Constitution, and understandably that is that possibility that you may have to defend someone or yourself by being put in harm's way. And that does happen on a regular basis, right? If, we also have the ability to use our brains and to not put ourselves in certain circumstances in the event that there's a better way of doing things. Typically, when you see quick reaction, quick split-second decisions, it's life or death immediacy, right?
Right.
And I've been I personally been in a situation, probably about a half a dozen times with a firearm, over my time as a lawman in this state. And you typically don't think about the danger when you're immersed in it.
Sure.
Now, responding to a known danger, your mind is racing at 100 miles an hour, right? Because you're like the what ifs, and that's what tends to keep people safe and alive is that your brain is taking in all this information, and you're formulating what you're going to do when you arrive at a situation. And so, I'm responding to a shots fired call. When I get there, is that individual still going to be there, or is there going to be, like, what am I going to have to do to keep myself as safe as possible, but intervene on behalf of the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I said before, sometimes when you just get instantly immersed into a situation, you're not thinking about, like, there's not time to think about that danger until it's over and done with. And we've been in those situations as well too. So
I'm sure it's the last thing you want to do is unholster your gun.
well, yeah, I mean, that's not a natural thing. Our whole life, if you grew up in northern Minnesota and you've taken firearm safety, the first rule of firearm safety is don't point the gun in a safe direction, right? We don't point the gun
Right.
at people. I remember getting my butt chewed by my dad. Like, you better watch the muzzle of that rifle when you walk through the woods, so. But yes, the state gives the authority to law enforcement officers to ultimately take away individuals' freedom. But there's a high cost at that, right?
Sure.
There's all these rules, there's all these laws that govern it. Do mistakes get made? Absolutely. That's why we have checks and balances in our judicial system, right? Acting within the accordance of state law and policy, peace officers are somewhat protected from, not necessarily, the act itself if they act outside of state law or policy, because there's this overwhelming misunderstanding about what qualified immunity is. And qualified immunity in the state of Minnesota for lawmen, it pertains to a number of different jobs, not just peace officers. If you act outside the scope of your department's policy and or state law, you waive your qualified immunity. But if you're acting in the scope and capacity of your job under the state statute and policy, it protects people that do this job from being singled out individually. That doesn't mean that the government isn't still liable for having a bad policy, right?
Sure.
It just protects the individual in a civil suit. So I know I went a little bit around that as far as, but that qualified immunity came up here recently, and I thought that would be a good point of discussion to maybe talk about that a little bit and make people aware of what it actually entails. It's not just a free-for-all. Now, from the scope of criminal, every taking of a life is considered a homicide, whether it's justified or not, and it will be investigated as that. And that's where we've had those situations in Beltrami County. We've had those situations in northern Minnesota. We've had recent ones, in our neighboring agencies. And those are looked at under a microscope by investigators. then they're also looked at by prosecutors who determine whether or not, what is the outcome of this and what are we going to do with this.
Because you guys are take an oath,
Correct.
serve and protect.
Correct.
But thank goodness we don't have to see. We see more people getting a speeding ticket or pulled over, right? So we see that in counter engagement. But I guess it is a good thing that we don't see a lot that you're protecting an individual or a situation, and that's what you're doing. Because there's not a lot of people that go running to help out for shots fired, I'm sure.
Right.
But you guys got to run out, and gals, step up and try and de-escalate this situation.
I think most people understand that a use of force in Minnesota is investigated by the VCA. probably 5% of the time. Is it standard that if it's a federal entity, that another federal entity investigates that?
I believe that would be the case, yes.
FBI is the top.
I know there were a lot of politicians in the metro that were all upset that Minnesota wasn't going to investigate this week. I'm like, well, that shouldn't be investigated by the state of Minnesota. To me.
And I don't know the specifics about how the federal law enforcement works, but if an FBI, we have multiple FBI agents in Beltrami County, right? And if one of them is involved in a use of force incident or the justifiable taking of a life, that would be certainly not investigated by my office, nor what I would guess it would be any local entity. And I don't know that they have any type of memorandum of understanding with the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension to conduct those investigations. So,
is that part like on TV where the FBI steps in and like, we're taking over from here?
if it's a federal crime, they have that jurisdiction. Yes. Bank robberies. The bank robberies are still they're FDIC protected, type of entities.
Sure.
Any crime that obviously happens on the Red Lake Indian Reservation, because they're federally it's a federal agency. In Greater Beltrami County, it would have to be a federal crime for them to take over. Something at the post office,
Gotcha.
People think that it's a federal crime for your mailbox to be damaged. I quite assure you that the FBI does not get involved with that. They do have postal inspectors that will come out. We've worked with postal inspectors in the past for people stealing mail from mailboxes. Back in the day when Paul Bunyan threw out their dividend checks, in the mail before most people got direct deposit or whatever. We had a number of checks getting stolen from mailboxes, and we work pretty hand in hand with those folks because we do have the local assets and know the local people. And most of our inspectors are not from this area. They have to travel here to start investigations. So we will work with them in those kinds of situations.
Well, thanks for the insight.
Yeah.
The more we know and hear, the better we
Being
can understand.
educated is a good thing.
Yes, it is.
Pray for our state. Pray for our country.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. What are you doing this weekend? Anything fun?
I'm going to watch the Beavs play Michigan Tech tonight, and then I've got a dive team meeting tomorrow. So work, and
Are you guys going on the water?
no,
Oh,
no. This will actually be a kind of a fun meeting. I'm not going to lie. This is a Christmas party.
oh, fun.
Made it sound like I was actually working.
Oh, I got this meeting. Well, perfect. You have a great weekend.
You as well, guys.